Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm coming to you today with the top 10 Scum ships for X-Wing. Now, if you are just finding this video, I have already done the 16 through 11, so make sure you check that out after you watch this as well. But I'm going to be ranking the top 10 Scum ships in X-Wing. This is primarily my opinion, based on a number of factors such as survivability, firepower, how much they're being played, how great I think the sculpt is, how pretty they are. I mean, that's a factor for me because I'm a visual gamer. So there's a whole lot of things that I put into the rankings, and I'd love to hear your feedback. So let's get started with number 10. Number 10 is, some of you probably think this one should be ranked higher, and I totally get that, but it's the Quad Jumper. Now, the Quad Jumper actually has a lot of things going for it. It can move backwards, which is it's the first of its kind that can do that. It has a lot of good upgrade slots on it. It's got tech, it's got crew, it's got bombs, it's got illicit, it's got all kinds of it's got a really nice combination of things. But it only has an attack value of 2, and it's a little bit squishy with only the 5 hull and 2 agility. But the real reason it's a little bit lower on this list, where I didn't put it up a little bit higher, is just because it's so ugly. It looks like it's half of a ship. It looks like the other half of the ship has been blown off. And this isn't really a criticism of FFG's sculpt. It's just a criticism of the ship itself. And I'm not like mad at them or anything. Like, not every ship can be beautiful, but it's an ugly ship. And I don't like to put ugly ships on the board as much. So that is an influence. I'm not saying it's garbage, and actually it did make the top 10, so it's in a good spot. I wish it was better looking. I'd probably put it a few points higher. All right, number 9, the IG 2000, the Aggressor. So this ship is, and has been, this ship used to be at like the top. Like, this was one of the best Scum ships for a long time. It's incredibly powerful when flown in 2s. Problem is, that's kind of the only way people fly it. You don't usually just fly a single IG-88. There is, the IG-88D crew now, so you can do that. But it's also a really survivable ship, even though it only has 8 hull. Funny thing is, now you've got some small ships that have more hull than a large ship. But it is very survivable, with the ability to take auto thrusters and the ability to evade and 3 agility. So it's an incredibly survivable ship. It still packs a punch, but its evasion has kind of been mitigated by the fact that there's so many more guaranteed forms of damage out there that I think it's kind of sank a little bit. But yeah, it's a pretty good ship. It's still very solid. I think it's just maybe grown a little stale for me, but this could totally change as we get new types of cannons that come out, and maybe new types of illicits. There's definitely a future for this ship. It's just a little bit on the staler side, and also the bombs too. So that is number 9, the Aggressor. Number 8 is the Kirax. Now, the Kirax is probably going to be much higher on my list once Guns for Hire comes out, but as of right now, it's not out yet, so that's why it's a little bit lower in my rankings. It's still a good ship. It's still one of my favorite ships. It's one of the ships I do generally really like to play, especially because of Talonbane Cobra being a really good pilot. I especially like this guy, and it just needed a little bit more for the cost of the ship, and it looks like it's getting that. So I think the Kirax is going to be much better here once Guns for Hire is available to the masses, and we can start seeing more of these guys on the tabletop. But I do really like the ship. Another thing I'm going to say is the stock paint job on this ship is pretty nice, because it kind of meshes with some of the other Scum ships that also happen to have this stock paint job of these colors. And while it may not be the most aesthetic, I do like to see like there's almost a little bit of uniformity, like that like certain sects of pirates or whatever like to all paint their ships the same color. So I'm just this little shout out. Like there's certain other Scum ships that have the same paint job, and it's motivated me to paint some of my other ships the same way too. All right, but yeah, this is a great ship. I do like it a lot. We're getting into the really good stuff now. So next is number 7 is the Houndstooth, the YV666, and it's funny as we get into like so many of these ships are really good that it's made it pretty hard to actually choose like who's going to be the best and who's not. But the YV666 it definitely has a great place because of I think 2 main reasons. Beyond the fact that it's just very tanky with its 12 hull, it's got 3 crew. So it gives you so many configuration options. But not only does it give you a ton of configuration options, but it also has 3 attack with this big frontal arc. So it can almost always shoot, and it can almost, if it has crew that works with shooting, it almost always gets to take advantage of that. There's very little that ends up being wasted in a ship like this. I mean, the only negatives for it really are the fact that it has limited mobility, but that's offset by the fact that it has such great firing arc, and it even has some things like maneuvering fins and things that you can use to take advantage of that. But it's just a really cool ship and has a cool title. It was the first ship that allowed us to see deployment. So that was cool, but just a lot of really great stuff with this ship. This is also really big. It's also really big, and big ships are, anytime I have an option to get like a huge ship on the board next to smaller ships, I always like the contrast. So that's another thing that makes me really like this ship, is just how big and beautiful it is on the playmat when you're flying. So got extra points for that. The YV666 Houndstooth. Number 6 is the Z95. This is the picture of the Rebel Z95, but because there was no spread just for the Scum Z95, you'd have to have the most wanted spread. But the Z95 maybe ranked a little higher than some of you might have put it, but it's especially good for me with the Scum faction, primarily because it's completely, in my opinion, it completely trumps the Rebel version of the Z95. First off, I think Nadru is like one of the best pilots in the game. I love his ability, and for the point cost too, he really feels very good. And he's also scalable with any type of other weapons. Even when an illicit is a secondary weapon, it's nice too. But illicit is the other thing. They can take illicit, so already they have more options than the Rebel Z95s for that as well. So it's a great cheap ship, especially in a faction that's full of so many large ships and so many expensive large ships. It really gives you options to get extra ships in there. If I'm seeing a lot more people now want to run 2 ship lists, and I've never been a fan of that. So I would always rather at least have 3, and this definitely makes that more possible. Whether you're doing a throwaway Z95 or a couple of Z95s with illicits, and it gives you a whole new option of swarms so that you can do. Or you wanted to run a little bit more expensive Nadru with some kind of cluster missile or something like that, you've got a really nice option here. And lastly, what else gives it that extra little push is that it also happens to be the Nashtappup for the YV666. It's your getaway ship for your Houndstooth. So it's also used with another ship, as the docking ship. So that also makes that better. So bonus points for that, the Scum Z95. Next up at number 5, the Lancer, the Shadowcaster, right? This thing is so well done in that this is how turrets always should have been, right? Big fan of the gyroscopic targeting here. This mobile firing arc is just fantastic, and it proves so effective too, while still giving you the option of being able to get into a blind spot. It's tanky, it's very effective, and it has great pilots. It really does. and it's brought so much. This is a very, very popular ship. You've got your 10 hull. You've also got 2 agility to go along with that. So very survivable. Not, it's not going to die on one turn. That's always an important thing. It's got a great mobile firing arc. And unless you're just flying up the middle in between a whole bunch of other guys, you're probably always going to have a shot. And it has all kinds of hijinks and shenanigans it can do with giving out stress or exploiting somebody else's stress. So it's more than just attacking as well. It's actually a pretty good sculpt too. And I think the only reason I don't have it a little bit higher, and again, we're getting into the point where like these are all really, really good, is that I see so many people running it. I think it was so good it became over popular for a while. So I was, so I'm a little bit less inclined to fly this, and I have a little more incentive to fly something that I don't see so many people flying. But I mean that's not much of a reason. It's still a good ship. So that's but again, we're getting into where everything I think is really good because we're in the top 5 now, and Scum is just a really strong faction right now. So like all of these are really, really good. So this is just a really good ship. All right, next is number 4. The Jumpmaster. You may disagree with me putting the Jumpmaster above the Lancer, but then again, you may not. So the Jumpmaster's definitely had a history, right? I initially liked this ship, and not even for the Swarm faction or factor of it, but just for Dengar and different ways that he could be configured. One of the things I always wanted to do was just Zuckuss and just take infinite stress. And, a lot of the things that some of the things that I wanted to do are nerfed. A lot of the things that other people were doing have been nerfed, but this ship is still standing. It's still standing strong. It's actually a really good ship. It's definitely more iconic to me than many of the other Scum ships because it's one of those original bounty hunter ships, right? So this is canon going back to the EU. It's high canon or mid-high canon because we never did see it on screen, but it's always looked like this. So the ship is iconic. It's Dengar is a PS9, so it has good pilots. It has really good pilots. Like every one of the pilots for this ship see play. Probably Tel Travura is probably like the least played, but he still sees play, especially with hull upgrade. I've seen that. Manaru's been extremely popular. Dengar is extremely popular, and the contracted scouts we all know they were extremely popular. Even though they've been nerfed, they're still really good. Because, I mean, gosh, you're still getting 9 hull and 2 agility here. So you already have a survivable ship. But you also have probably the best maneuver dial that I've ever seen. It may be the best maneuver dial in the game. You've got the white S-loop. It's only on the one side, but shoot, even if you do something like Zuckuss and take a bunch of stress, of course you can only do it once until you then, clear all the stress now, but you still can turn around. I think they meant for it to be unpredictable or slightly more predictable, but I don't know. I think they failed there. I think they made it, just extremely maneuverable because, you can still take the red S loop another way, but unless you're really stressed and have to turn around, then, there's certain cases where it can be predictable. But it's not that predictable. It can still pack a punch. You can still give it the Punishing 1 title and have a really nice primary weapon turret of 3. But I mean, I don't know. Like, there's so few bad things to say about this ship. It's great pilots, iconic art, great maneuverability, great survivability. It's just a really, really strong ship. And despite all the nerfs, it's still really strong. On to number 3. This is one I'm going to catch some flack for probably, but the M3A Interceptor is my number 3 ship. It is one of my favorites. It was early on. It was my favorite Scum ship, and it's still maintained a very high place. Even when people thought this ship was unflyable, I still liked it, and I would still fly it from time to time. But we've gotten a bunch of fixes and a bunch of new pilots and a whole bunch of stuff in the Sea Rock, and even before the Sea Rock, we also got the errata to the Heavy Sick Interceptor, which gave them an extra hull. So we've gotten 2 buffs on this ship in recent times, which really, really help it out. I love this ship. It's got some interesting pilots. It's got a lot more pilots now, but it's also a cheap heavy laser cannon platform, which really allows you to have somebody kind of hang back and unload with a tremendous number of dice. And I think it looks really cool. I really like the look of this ship. I really like the point cost of this ship, and I really like the maneuverability of this ship. In fact, I think the only thing that would make this ship better for me is if they had a one forward, which they almost kind of do now, if they want to take an ion token. So, and that's through the new shield upgrade that they have, that they can get a shield back. So I'm a big fan of that right now. So if they want to take a pulse ray shield, you can still potentially go one forward, but that's kind of a cop-out. They don't really have the one forward. But it'd be nice to do the slow approach if you wanted to just hang back with the heavy laser cannons. But every new cannon that comes out kind of gives them another option. And we're even seeing options for them to take ordnance as well. So do like the ship. You can also now run them as kind of a swarm ship as well. So there's all kinds of different options for this ship. So I personally like this one. It goes higher just according to my preference. I expect some of you would potentially disagree with where I've placed this ship, but I love it. I absolutely do. So that is the M3A Interceptor. Number 2 is the Protectorate Fighter. This ship is so awesome for me. When this thing came out, I fell in love with it. I have, because more and more games, I'll give you an idea, more and more games have been coming out, and I've been having to spread myself pretty thin. I don't buy multiples of X-Wing ships quite so much anymore, but this one was the first one in like a year I instantly bought 2 of. And it's just, so it fits into a lot of the same reasons I like the M3A Interceptor, in that it's kind of got a glass cannon thing going on, like all offense and not that much defense, and that's what it's kind of has, and it even mitigates that weakness. But especially flying this with the M3A, I can have the interceptors and heavy laser cannons in back, and then now my Protectorate fighters up front, and that's just. And the title also, by the way, is not unique, so you can put it on all of them. They also, it's just it's great. I mean, running Fearlessness and Concord Dawn Protector just makes for a really great jousting ship that wants to get in your face. Really suits my style of play. I want to just say, all right, let's go for it. Let's either win or lose. The game ends right now, this turn. So I love that. I love the pilots, especially Fen Rao. But the thing is, they're all good pilots. I've run, I think, almost all of them. So that's really nice. Also, it looks great. It's a great sculpt too. It's like one of the sleekest, most awesome, badass looking ships that we have in the Scum faction, I think. It's really, really nice looking. Very fun to fly. Very, very fun to fly. And can survive even things that you wouldn't think it, should have survived. So I just love the ship. The Talon roll too is just nice. It's got pretty good maneuverability. And of course it's got the boost and barrel roll, so it's got all of the movement actions that you want it to have as well. So it's superb. It doesn't have the evade, but that doesn't suit its play style anyway. It doesn't need that. So I do really, really, really like this ship, and it was a very tough choice trying to pick number 1 and not have this one be number 1. So coming on next is at number 1, the Scurrg H6 Bomber. This thing has taken the game by storm and is really, really impressed me. This ship is phenomenal. It's so very, very good. Well, I don't even know where to get started when I was talking about this ship. So first off, I guess I think this is probably one of the tankiest ships I've ever seen. For a small base ship to have 10 health, it's very impressive, very, very impressive. But look at all the upgrades you can put on this thing. First off, it's got 3 damage. It's got an attack value of 3, so it's already a respectable thing. But it's also got a turret. So if the 3 primary attack wasn't good enough, now you've got the turret. You can take torpedoes, missiles, bombs, crew, and it's so all kinds of stuff. And then potentially with the title, you can also take system and salvaged astromech. Um, so here also gives you an option that people can finally take Genius for the first time because of Captain Nim. So you have also one of the best pilots in the game, Captain Nim. Is totally changed. Like this ship totally changed the bomb game, and bombs are so much better now. And a lot of it has to do with this ship. It's really impressive. It's just totally now. From the beginning, when I first started playing X-Wing, I loved bombs. I used to run 4 TIE bombers with bombs, and it didn't work very well. I used to run Emon Azamine, max loaded out with bombs, and that didn't work out so well. It was something I always wanted to work well, and it never really worked out so well. And now we really have great options for bombs, and so bombs are definitely relevant right now, and that makes it really easy to enjoy and appreciate this ship. This ship also has a really great sculpt. So that much is important. It's beautiful. It's too big for a small base, but it's beautiful. It's like if it's one of those ships that really makes you wish that X-Wing had a medium base, like in between small and large, because this would be ideal for it. But yes, and the costs really aren't that bad either. Like your PS1 is only 24. And then for Nim you're only looking at 30 for one of the best pilots in the game. Granted, you're going to spend way more than that on the ship, but there are lesser pilots that cost 5 points or more higher than this. So the costing is very, very reasonable. The dual bombs is very good because it does allow you to take important ones like the bomblet generator. And I mean, of course, it should have that because it comes with it. But it's having 2 bombs is very, very nice, and you can even get a third with here because of the crew. I mean, the crew gives you so many options on a bomber too. So crew is really nice. If you take the Havoc title, it changes it out so you can configure the ship totally differently. So you can have 2 completely different ways of running this ship, or should I say 4, because you can also run it in the Rebels. But we're not talking about Rebels right now. We're talking about Scum. But yes, a lot of options for this ship. It's totally changed everything, at least for the bomb game, and that makes me a very happy camper. Definitely really like this ship. It has so much mobility. As far as places it can go. It has barrel roll built in too natively, so you don't even have to give it engine upgrade if you don't want to. Although that does make for a really nice version of Nim with advanced sensors and engine upgrade. Ooh man, and Genius, forget about it. But the dial is actually really good too. The 1 forward is. I always like when a ship has a 1 forward. It doesn't have the hard 1 turn, which is, forgivable because it does have Talon rolls. So it has a pretty solid dial considering it's got so much else going for it. It doesn't have a regular K turn, and it doesn't have the hard 1, but it does have Talon rolls and can still do a 3 straight green. So not half bad. Not half bad. I really like this ship, and I think it's almost too good. So it may fade away. It may fade out of my #1 spot, and I may go back to the Protectorates, and the M3A is kind of taking over the #1 spot here shortly. But right now, this one is just too good. So that is my list, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I would love to hear what you have to say. What do you disagree with? What would you have put somewhere else? I'm going to be doing the Empire after this. I've already done the Rebels, so make sure you check out my other videos, and let me know what you think, guys. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment in the comments below. Make sure you are subscribed. Click the little bell for alerts so you can get notifications when I have new videos that come out. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.